When the ceasefire between the United States and Iran was announced on April 7, 2026, most of the world focused on Trump's Truth Social post claiming victory and Iran's cautious confirmation that a deal had been reached. But the real story behind how that ceasefire happened is far more complex, far more geopolitically significant, and far more revealing about the shifting balance of global power than anything in Trump's announcement. Two countries made that ceasefire possible. One was Pakistan, the other was China, and understanding how they did it tells you something important about where American influence in the world stands right now. Let us start with Pakistan, because Pakistan's role in this story is genuinely extraordinary. Pakistan is a country of 250 million people that most Americans associate primarily with terrorism concerns, nuclear weapons, and geopolitical instability. It is not the country that comes to mind when you think of skilled diplomatic mediation, and yet Pakistan pulled off what South Asia expert Michael Kugelman called one of its biggest diplomatic wins in years, defying many skeptics and naysayers who did not think it had the capacity to pull off such a complex and high-stakes feat. So how did Pakistan end up as the country that stopped what could have become a catastrophic escalation in the Middle East? The answer starts with a unique set of relationships that no other country on earth holds simultaneously. Pakistan is one of the very few nations in the world that maintains genuinely working relationships with both Washington and Iran. Iran was the first country to recognize Pakistan when it gained independence in 1947. Pakistan returned the favor after Iran's Islamic Revolution in 1979. The two countries share a nearly 1,000-kilometer border. Pakistan has the world's second-largest Shia Muslim population after Iran. And critically, because Iran has no embassy in Washington, Pakistan represents certain Iranian diplomatic interests in the United States. When the two countries need to communicate through official channels, Pakistan is often the conduit. Former Pakistani ambassador to Tehran, Asif Durrani, explained it simply. Pakistan has strong credentials as the only country in the region enjoying good relations with the U.S. and Iran, he said. Iran feels more comfortable in Islamabad, which is why it accepted Pakistan's mediation. But Pakistan's ability to play this role in 2026 was not just about geography and historical relationships. It was also about a specific personal relationship that developed between Pakistan's military chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, and Donald Trump. That relationship was forged in a surprising crucible. In May 2025, Pakistan and India had a brief but intense military confrontation. Trump publicly claimed credit for brokering the ceasefire that ended that episode, a claim Pakistan acknowledged while India disputed it. That episode opened a direct back channel between Munir and the White House that had not previously existed. Munir visited Washington twice. Trump publicly praised him on multiple occasions and called him "my favorite field marshal." Munir also developed a personal rapport with Vice President J.D. Vance and was connected through business engagements to figures in the orbit of Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. When the Iran war began on February 28, 2026, Pakistan was acutely aware that it had enormous personal stakes in the outcome. Pakistan imports much of its oil and gas through the Strait of Hormuz. When Iran closed the strait, Pakistani energy costs spiked. Pakistan's fragile economy, already dealing with high inflation and falling incomes, could not absorb a prolonged energy shock. Pakistan also signed a mutual defense agreement with Saudi Arabia in September 2025, meaning that if the war spiraled into a broader conflict that drew Saudi Arabia in, Pakistan could face pressure to enter the fight against Iran, its neighbor and longtime partner. Pakistan could not afford that outcome on any level. So from the earliest days of the conflict, Pakistan began laying groundwork for mediation. Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar hosted multiple meetings with counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. On March 12, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif traveled to Jeddah with Munir to meet Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The Pakistanis were threading a needle, maintaining their mutual defense commitment to Riyadh while simultaneously preserving the channel to Tehran. On March 22nd and 23rd, Munir spoke directly to Trump. Pakistan formally offered to host talks on March 23rd. Sharif publicly echoed the offer on social media, tagging Trump, Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi, and Witkoff directly. That is when China enters the picture. Pakistan's foreign minister flew to Beijing on March 31st to meet with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. That conversation was described by analysts as carrying significant weight. China is Iran's largest trading partner. China buys the bulk of Iran's sanctioned oil. The two countries have a deep economic and strategic relationship, and China had been deeply alarmed by the economic fallout from the Iran war. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 20% of global oil supply. Net exports contributed about 1/3 of China's GDP last year. A prolonged disruption to Strait of Hormuz transit does not just hurt America, it hurts China profoundly, threatening the energy supplies that power its export economy and the global trade that its manufacturers depend on to sell goods around the world. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made 26 phone calls to various parties, including Iran, Israel, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Germany, and Gulf states throughout the conflict. China's special envoy on the Middle East traveled to the region for mediation efforts, and on March 31st, Pakistan and China together published a 5-point initiative calling for an immediate end to hostilities and the restoration of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The final piece of the puzzle was the last-minute push on April 7th, with Trump threatening that a whole civilization will die tonight just hours before his 8 p.m. deadline. The New York Times reported that Beijing made a decisive intervention, urging Iran to accept Pakistan's ceasefire proposal. 3 Iranian officials confirmed China's role to the Times. Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif extended the country's deepest and sincerest gratitude to China specifically, listing Beijing first among the countries that provided invaluable support. The White House confirmed that China's involvement in the ceasefire took place at the top levels of the U.S. and Chinese governments. Trump himself told reporters that China had helped get Iran across the line.
What made Pakistan and China's combination so effective is worth understanding. Pakistan provided the practical channel and the human relationships. Munir knew Trump. Munir knew how to talk to the White House in the language it responded to. Pakistan provided the physical venue. Islamabad declared a 2-day security holiday and locked down the capital to host the first direct talks between U.S. and Iranian officials. Pakistan provided credibility with Tehran that no Western country could offer. China provided the strategic weight. When Beijing told Tehran to accept the deal, Tehran listened in a way it would not have listened to Pakistan alone. Iran understood that China's economic lifeline, including the oil purchases and the trade relationships that keep Iran's economy functioning under American sanctions, came with expectations. Iran could not afford to alienate Beijing by ignoring its advice at a critical moment. Former Pakistani Information Minister Fawad Chowdhury captured the dynamic precisely. Pakistan and China were in a position to persuade Iran to behave itself and give the U.S. some way out of the conflict. That phrase, "give the U.S. some way out," is significant. It suggests that the United States, for all of Trump's bombast about victory and conquest, needed a diplomatic off-ramp as much as Iran did. Trump campaigned on ending wars. He started one. He had threatened to wipe out a civilization. He needed to be able to declare victory and stop. Pakistan and China gave him that opportunity while simultaneously protecting their own economic and strategic interests. The broader lesson here is significant. Two countries that the United States has historically either ignored, condescended to, or treated as rivals stepped into a vacuum that American unilateralism created and filled it with diplomacy. They did not ask for permission. They built relationships, coordinated with each other, maintained multiple simultaneous channels, and delivered a ceasefire that the world desperately needed. In doing so, they enhanced their own global standing in ways that will outlast this particular conflict. Pakistan has rebranded itself as a serious mediator on the world stage. China has demonstrated that it can shape outcomes in a conflict involving the United States without firing a single shot. That is the real story of how the ceasefire happened, and it tells you more about the current state of American global influence than any of Trump's victory posts on Truth Social.